Welcome to Aging Insight with your host, John Ross and Lisa Shoalmire. This program is brought to you by
Welcome everyone to another edition of Aging Insight. I'm Lisa Shoalmire and I'm here with my co-host John Ross. And we are elder law attorneys based right here in the Arklatex area. And it is our desire that you get from this program information that you can use as you plan for yourself through retirement and aging, and also as you plan for your family at your death. And we want to make sure that you have good information to make those decisions and plans on. So John, today we really wanted to talk about a topic that, we're always talking about how part of our idea here is that we want to help people who don't want to go to a nursing home, who want to remain financially independent and not be a burden on their family, and also for folks who don't want to go broke in the aging process.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one topic that comes up quite frequently, because it hits on all of those things, is the idea of long-term care insurance. And that is it's a pretty common topic. It's not an insurance product that a lot of folks have, but we have seen some people who have purchased that product. And I'll just start off by saying we are certainly not insurance salesmen. We're here to give you some information about that insurance product, and whether or not it may be something that you find useful to add to your toolbox for your aging process.
And really where this comes into, you have essentially three ways that you can pay for your care as you get older. Whether you need in-home care, whether you need assisted living care, whether you need nursing home care. Realize, first of all, that the actual cost of these sort of things, that nursing home is going to run $4,500 to $5,000 a month. That assisted living might be $2,000 or $3,000. In-home care, which most people that we talk to would prefer to age in their home, but in-home care is often the most expensive option, because if you're paying somebody $10 or $15 an hour and you need that level of care 24 hours a day, now we're talking about $200 or $300 per day, which can easily be $6,000 to $10,000 a month for that level of care. And the problem here is that, when you retire, you've got Medicare, maybe you've got some supplemental insurance, and a lot of times people assume that Medicare and their supplemental insurance is going to pay for that in-home care, that it's going to pay for that nursing home care. The fact is, it's not.
That's right. So, a lot of folks they say, hey, I have Medicare and I have a good supplement, or I have good retiree health insurance that supplements my Medicare, so I don't have to worry about long-term care issues.
That's right.
And
but
that is just not the case.
Yeah, and so if you were to go into a nursing home, Medicare might pay for the first 20 days. If you've been in a hospital for 3 days and you went directly from the hospital to the nursing home, well then Medicare will pay for 20 days. And if you have a supplemental insurance might pay for another 80 days beyond that. But at an absolute maximum, they're only going to pay for 100 days. After that, you're back to your three choices, which are, you can either pay cash for this, and there's lots of rumors about if you go to the nursing home, they're going to take your stuff. They're not going to take your stuff. That's just rumor. They're just really expensive apartments. And as long as you can pay the rent, you can stay there. Problem is, at $5,000 a month, most people can't pay that. But so one option, though, is just to pay cash. Another option is to qualify for government assistance like Medicaid or perhaps VA benefits, which we've talked about on prior episodes. But the third option out there is long-term care insurance. And that's one that a lot of people forget about.
Right, and so, you know, the history of long-term care insurance, this is something that's a fairly new product because, you know, as the baby boomers have aged and they've seen their parents age, you know, people have become concerned with the cost of long-term care. So really we saw a surge in popularity of this type of product back, I would say, in the late 80s, early 90s. And, you know, a lot of insurance companies, there was 20 or 30 insurance companies that sold a long-term care policy, and that policy, the terms varied from policy to policy, but essentially the idea was that you pay a premium that they calculate, and if you pay that premium, you continue to pay it up until the time you either qualify and need the type of care that the insurance policy covers, or frankly, you drop the policy or you die. So this was the model of long-term care insurance, and we have seen a lot of that paying for long-term care, people who've kept that insurance. I've had a couple of folks who they had policies that actually paid for their in-home care. The policy they had paid, you know, $80 a day, $110 a day, whether they were at home or whether they were at assisted living or a nursing facility. And so they use those per day rates to pay for in-home care. But the problem, John, we have seen is that those policies, like I just described, we have fewer insurance companies offering those type policies, and the benefits are different. So what we wanted to talk about to you today is if you have a policy, we want you to get it out and look at it after you've heard our discussion so you can look at your policy to see what it covers. And if you don't have a policy but are considering buying one, hopefully some things we talk about will be things you can ask your insurance professional about.
Yeah, and there's certainly a number of different elements in all of this. You know, we want to learn about the types of policies that are out there, what they pay for, what they don't pay for, and some things that you need to look at as it relates to you personally. What is about your personal situation are you trying to insure? And so when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about these sort of things. So we'll see you in just a second.
Hi there, I'm Larry Sims. It's been my privilege for the past several years to be a volunteer board member of Hospice of Texarkana, and there I'm able to represent community members like you. We continually customize our end-of-life care to better meet the needs of our community. As an example, our medical director and nurse practitioner still make visits to homes and facilities. Call today to learn more about the help we can give your family. Hospice of Texarkana, the nonprofit hospice established in 1985 for the community, by the community.
As things get older, they require more care. This car and I have seen a lot of miles together, but because I take care of her, she runs just like she did in 1955. That's why I chose the Wadley Senior Clinic, with an individualized care plan designed just for me and a convenient location off Jefferson Avenue. They have everything to keep me running like new. It's not about the miles, it's about the journey. Let the Wadley Senior Clinic keep you happy, healthy, and cruising down the road of life.
All our moments should be cherished. SEMA Hospice provides comfort care when you need it most with compassion, dignity, and respect. Along with Jordan Health Services, SEMA Hospice provides compassionate continuity of care. SEMA Hospice, comfort and care when it matters most.
Hi, I'm Blake Rich. Heritage Home Health and Heritage Hospice is a realization of my dream of bringing exceptional home care to the people of Texarkana, Texas, and the surrounding areas.
The love and compassion of Jesus Christ gives our work purpose.
Their dignity is important to us. We respect the fact that they choose us and honored to be given that opportunity.
Love, dignity, respect.
We are Heritage Home Health and Hospice.
Welcome back to Aging Insight. I'm John Ross. This is Lisa Shoalmire, and today on Aging Insight, we're talking about long-term care insurance. Now, as Lisa talked about in the opening segment, we're not insurance salesmen. We don't sell long-term care insurance. But when it comes to paying for your care, long-term care insurance is one of the pieces to the puzzle. It's not appropriate for everybody, but it is appropriate for many people. And so whether you have long-term care insurance in place or whether you're considering it for yourself, there's a few things that you need to kind of keep in mind. You know, a lot of times when I talk to people about long-term care insurance, I ask them a question, and when I ask them, they look at me somewhat funny, like they had never thought about it in these terms. But, you know, if you have homeowners insurance, what are you insuring? Well, you're insuring your home. If you have car insurance, you're insuring the value of your car. But what is it that you're insuring? What are you trying to protect with your long-term care insurance? So, you know, for example, if you had very little income and very little assets, there probably is no reason to pay for long-term care insurance because you're already going to qualify for things like Medicaid if you ever need the care. So the first thing is, do you even need the long-term care insurance? What is it that you're insuring? If there are things, if you do have some assets, some valuable things, maybe you own real estate, maybe you have financial assets, stocks and bonds, and you want to try to preserve those with insurance, the next part is, what type of policy do you have or should you be looking at? And at first, these can come in a couple of different forms. The first one would be more of a traditional type policy, and this is where you're making a premium payment each month, and as long as you keep making the premium payment, you have the insurance.
Right, you know, and this is the situation where, you know, if you apply for this type of long-term care insurance, there's an application. It asks you a lot of questions about your health and circumstances, and then you submit that application. It goes to an underwriter who comes back and says, yes, we will issue a long-term care policy for Mrs. Johnson, and her annual premium will be, you know, $4,300 a year. And this type policy, basically, there might be an elimination period to where this policy does not cover long-term care expenses for, say, the first 90 days, you know, when you have some sort of medical crisis, but it kicks in after that 90 days. Also, one of the issues in the policy would be how many months, how long will this policy pay? And John, I think you would agree with me that in the past, insurance underwriters often would issue a lifetime policy.
Right.
That if you paid premiums and you needed long-term care, that insurance policy would pick up and pay for the care needs that you had for your lifetime.
Right, and a lot of times people would end up choosing not to get the long-term care insurance because if you think about it, and this makes sense, the longer the insurance company is potentially liable for your care, well, the more they're going to charge you for that insurance. And so you could get a policy for, say, 3 years, or get one for 5 years, or get one that will potentially pay for your entire lifetime. But the longer they might have to pay, the more that's going to cost. And you're right. Typically, they would offer these policies generally as a lifetime benefit, which were so expensive for so many people that they just never gave it another thought. And they said, nope, I can't afford it. But the fact is, do you even really need that much? So, you know, the first thing to consider is, well, how long are you likely to need that long-term care in the first place? Right, and you know, the reality of the situation is, and one thing we are about on Aging Insight is dealing with realities. The reality of the situation is, for most people, you know, you're not going to be in a long-term care situation or need that type of long-term care for, say, more than 5 years. You know, a lot of times if your health has declined to the point that you need that type of support, you know, a lot of times, you know, we pass on before, you know, we use up 5 years worth of long-term care insurance. So that is one way to deal realistically with the cost of a long-term care policy. Right. You know, statistically speaking, something like 90-something% of the people that enter a nursing home will pass away within the first 24 months. And so, you know, if you think about a lifetime benefit that could potentially pay for 10 or 15 or 20 years, when 9 times out of 10, you would only use about 2 years worth of benefits. Having a much shorter policy probably makes more sense for most people and is going to be considerably cheaper. Now, Lisa, you also mentioned 5 years, because the other thing is you want to think about, how does the long-term care insurance relate to other things that might be out there, like, for example, Medicaid benefits.
Right. So many people have heard that, if to qualify for Medicaid benefits, which is the only government program that pays for long-term care, nursing home type benefits, they've heard that, they can't give their stuff away, that they'd be penalized, or there's a 5-year look-back period for any gifts or transfers that you make at the time you apply for Medicaid. So this 5-year time period right now is sort of a magic time period that is included in the law at this time. So the bottom line is, if I purchase a 5-year long-term care policy, then I can make other arrangements with my assets and know that I've got that long-term care policy in place. So if I am one of those folks who uses up 5 years worth of long-term care benefits, as I enter year 6 and my policy benefits have run out, I can actually have already made plans with my assets that qualified me to maybe receive Medicaid or government benefits for my long-term care beginning in year 6.
Right, and so again, you want to consider how these things are coordinating together. Yes, you might need some long-term care insurance, but you might not need a lifetime's worth of benefit, because 5 years worth of the benefit could be enough to get you to the point where some other benefit could take over. For example, Medicaid benefits. The other part about figuring out how much long-term care insurance you need is figuring out that daily benefit. How much do they pay per day? And here again, we've got to figure in a lot of other factors, not only what your current situation is, but what your potential future situation might be, which we'll talk about when we come back here in just a second.
Windsor Cottage offers a home environment with available assistance. Our mission is to provide ultimate care through dedication and personal attention. Residents enjoy the opportunity to continue their independent lifestyle with dignity. They thrive as they're able to live without the pressures of the hustle and bustle of daily living. Windsor Cottage is committed to a family atmosphere where residents can enjoy companionship and the pleasures of daily activities. At Windsor Cottage, we live the difference.
From our first moments to our final days, life's journey should be remembered free of burden and worry. Family should be cherished. SEMA Hospice provides comfort care, dignity, and respect. Learn more about SEMA Hospice at SEMAHospice.com. SEMA Hospice, comfort and care when it matters most.
Hi there, I'm Larry Sims. It's been my privilege for the past several years to be a volunteer board member of Hospice of Texarkana. And there I'm able to represent community members like you. We continually customize our end-of-life care to better meet the needs of our community. As an example, our medical director and nurse practitioners still make visits to homes and facilities. Call today to learn more about the help we can give your family. Hospice of Texarkana, the nonprofit hospice established in 1985 for the community, by the community.
As things get older, they require more care. This car and I have seen a lot of miles together, but because I take care of her, she runs just like she did in 1955. That's why I chose the Wadley Senior Clinic, with an individualized care plan designed just for me and a convenient location off Jefferson Avenue. They have everything to keep me running like new. It's not about the miles, it's about the journey. Let the Wadley Senior Clinic keep you happy, healthy, and cruising down the road of life.
Welcome back to Aging Insight. I'm John Ross. This is Lisa Shoalmire, and today we're talking about long-term care insurance, and some of the issues related to this and how they impact you. Now, one thing to consider with long-term care insurance, you've got a couple of different elements here. You've got how long of a period of time is it going to pay for? For example, it might pay for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or a lifetime's worth of benefit. And what you want to consider in this is, one, what is the potential length of time that you might need in care facilities? What's your family history? For example, do you have a history of Alzheimer's? Alzheimer's disease many times can cause a longer stay in a nursing home, and so that may be one of these cases where you need more long-term care insurance because of your family history. But the other thing to keep in mind is your access to other government benefits like Medicaid, which if under Medicaid rules, there's a 5-year window where you could, for example, shield your assets with a asset protection trust and qualify for Medicaid, but only after 5 years. So if you had 5 years worth of benefits, then while you're waiting for that time period to pass, you've got the insurance there that's helping cover the costs of your care needs during that penalty period. So there's that. So one part is the length of care. The other side of this is the daily benefit.
Right, John, these insurance policies, they typically will set out in the policy that the insurance company will pay a certain amount per day toward long-term care expenses. And that amount could vary. Again, your premiums are going to be paid based on the level of coverage, the length of time, and the daily rate of coverage that you select as part of purchasing long-term care insurance. So, the average daily rate for care as we sit here this year runs about $150, $160 a day at a skilled nursing facility. So, you may look at things like your current income. What income do you expect to receive? Social Security, retirement, pensions, that type of thing. So, if you already have income coming in of, say, $40 a day, well, then maybe you want to purchase long-term care insurance that is sufficient, has a sufficient benefit, such as $110 a day, to bring you up to where your income essentially can pay the daily rate of your cost of long-term care. And John, you mentioned something a moment ago about looking to see what other benefits you might qualify for, and you mentioned Medicaid. And of course, there is another benefit out there for our veterans and the surviving spouses of wartime veterans, which will also provide an additional monthly pension income if that person is in need of the aid and attendance of someone else.
That's right.
And of course, if you're needing long-term care and those type of supports, well, then you probably are someone who needs some aid and attendance. So again, we can adjust our level of long-term care insurance purchase to what we think our income and including other benefits such as VA would be. So for instance, as a surviving spouse of a wartime veteran, you may qualify for up to about $1,100 a month in VA benefits. Well, if your Social Security or pension benefits already bring in $2,000 a month, and then you qualify for this VA benefit, so now you're bringing in $3,000 a month. Well, John, you said the cost of care for a nursing home stay is around $4,500 on average. Well, so our shortfall from an income standpoint to pay our way is only $1,500 a month under those facts. So in that situation, again, we might want to purchase long-term care insurance, but in order to keep the premiums down, we want to purchase what we need, which is an additional $1,500 a month of potential benefit rather than, over-purchase.
That's right. And, what you've got to remember is that the more you pay for, the more expensive it is. And so you want to match the amount of insurance that you buy to what your needs are. And there's a big difference. If you needed an extra $3,000 a month to cover that $5,000 nursing home bill, well, you're going to buy $100 a day worth of benefit. But if you didn't realize that as a veteran, you're entitled to $1,500 to $1,700 a month to help cover that cost later on down the road, you know, essentially that's going to cover half of that deficit. So instead of needing $100 a day worth of insurance, you could reduce that down to $50 a day. And oftentimes when you cut the amount of the benefit like that in half, so does the premium.
Right. So, you know, and one thing to look at when you're looking at a long-term care insurance policy is, another thing you want to look for is this policy does it have an inflation adjustment? Because we all know that medical expenses seem to rise much faster than our other expenses, and long-term care is no different. So you want to make sure that any policy you're looking at has an inflationary protection rider, or if it doesn't, I want you to go into purchasing that policy eyes wide open and knowing that it does not offer inflation protection.
Right. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention when it comes to long-term care insurance, everything that we've talked about so far have been more related to traditional policies where you make a premium payment every month, and if at some point in time you need the insurance, you get the money for that care. Now, there's been a lot of different things that have come up in the world of insurance. There's lots of different types of policies now that are available. For example, there are single premium policies where it's more like a life insurance policy. If you never need long-term care, you get the money back. But if you do need the care, then it starts reducing that death benefit. There are some that are tied to Medicaid. So the more insurance you have, the more assets you can keep and still qualify for Medicaid. So there's been lots of advancements in the world of long-term care insurance. The key is figuring out what's right for you.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a complicated world. I tell folks all the time, as we get older, life seems to get more complicated, but that's why we're here on Aging Insight, to help guide you through some of these things. So I hope today that you've learned a bit about long-term care insurance and looking at the time period of coverage that you need, looking at the daily rate of coverage that you may want to purchase, and also looking at how you could coordinate this insurance policy with other benefits you may be entitled to.
That's right. And of course, if you have questions about long-term care insurance or any of the topics that we talk about, find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Aging Insight. And until next week, we'll see you again on Aging Insight.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for this week's Aging Insight program with John Ross and Lisa Shoalmire. This program is made possible by